Today in our 2016 Chevrolet Silverado 2500, we're going to be showing you how to install the B&W Custom Underbed Installation Kit for the B&W Companion fifth wheel trailer hitches. Part number is BWGNRK1016-5W. Now this kit's going to allow you to use the B&W Companion gooseneck to fifth wheel trailer hitch adapter with dual jaws and a 20,000 pound weight capacity. Available in standard configuration as part number BW-RVK3500 or in a slider version, part number BW-RVK3400. The underbed design is going to allow full access to our truck bed, but can very easily be converted over to a fifth wheel hitch in less than 5 minutes. We'll start off by unlocking our B&W hitch and installing our fifth wheel adapter. We have ours pre-assembled, but you can adjust the uprights here depending on your truck and trailer combination. At this point, we're ready to connect to our trailer. It's going to be a little clip that you'll release. Basically, it's a safety pin. Then you swing the handle out. You can watch the jaws open. We're ready to back onto the trailer. Once we've secured to our trailer, we'll simply reinstall our clip. This is going to offer us a very quick and easy way to have a fifth wheel when we need it, a gooseneck when we need it, and also a clean, empty, open bed when we need that. Now when not in use, this is what the kit's gonna look like. You can see it's about flush with the top of our bed rail here. Our safety chain connection points are down in the lower portion of the bed. This is gonna give us just about a flat surface all the way across, so we're not taking up any room out of our bed at all. Now we've started our install. You can see we've got our rear tires off the truck. We've pulled down the spare tire just to make it easier, basically for you to see. The first part we're actually going to remove from the vehicle is going to be the heat shield. Just kind of sits up here in the area where we need to work. Right here on top of the frame we've got 2 bolts that we're going to remove. For these we'll want a 13mm socket or a ratcheting wrench. Now there are a couple other bolts holding our heat shield in place. To get to those we're going to go underneath. Now we need to look right up above this round cross member closest to the rear of the truck. There's going to be one right on top of that. And then there's going to be one right on top of that front round cross member. Now let's just pull that out. We can set that aside. All right, now we're ready to get our hole put in the bed. Now we want to measure this out nice and carefully. Look at the instructions. It's going to give you the exact measurement that you want to do from the rear of the bed. So our tape measure hooks right over the end. You will want to keep in mind if you've got any type of spray-in bed liner, if it's a 1/16 thick or an 1/8 thick or a 1/4 thick, you need to adjust for that to get your hole in the right location here. All right, now we'll get this marked out. Now we want to measure from wheel well to wheel well. We're going to split that in half. And it looks like it's going to have us right here in the middle of this rib. Now I'm going to take a center punch and mark that intersection. Right there. Now it's time to grab our 4-inch hole saw and get it drilled out. All right, now we're back here in the passenger side wheel well area. You'll see the hat channel that sits pretty much right in the middle. We want to go forward of that just slightly, so closer to the front of the truck. And we need to cut out a little notch here. It's going to be a triangle shaped notch. It needs to be about 3/4 of an inch deep, so it needs to go most of the way up. And it needs to be about 2 inches wide. Now to make your cut, you can use like a high-speed cut-off wheel. You can use a hacksaw, whatever you've got handy there. Just pull that down and out of the way. That should give us that clearance that we're looking for. Now we can take our front cross member. You can see that's going to be the one that is angled. I'm going to slide it right up over the frame rail there. You can see how that hole gives us the clearance we need to actually get it in position. Now we want to be mindful and watch out for any electrical connectors, fuel lines, things like that. We want to get it to where it'll span both the passenger side and rest over on that driver's side of the frame rail here. Now we're going to grab one of our bolts. This is the 1/2 inch, 1.5 inch long, so it's going to be the shorter of the 1/2 inch bolts. You'll see one hole all the way here on the outside. We're going to come in one from there That bolt's going to be placed through, and we're going to use this O-ring to hold it in place. Now we'll want to move this forward of our hole by about 6 inches or so, and you'll see it's going to be able to rotate up. The holes need to be towards the back. Now it's time for us to get our center section lifted into position. You can see the hole on it's kind of offset. We want that offset to be towards the rear of our truck. We'll guide it up into position. You may need somebody to hold down on the exhaust while you try to work it in. Now for a little additional security, it's not a bad idea to place in one of our 1/2-inch bolts. And we can get it through that center section. We're just going to place on a lock washer and one of the hex nuts. Now we're going to be putting our rear cross member into place. It's going to slide in the exact same fashion that our forward one did. Now one thing you want to remember when putting this in, there's going to be a slight difference in the gap from the bolt hole up and from the bolt hole down. It's not a big difference, but we do want this smaller gap to be towards the bottom. And something that I like to do is take a tap. This is a 1/2 inch by 13, and I like to go in each of those holes and clean them out. Take that bar, needs to be laid flat, and we just want to do the same thing we did with our forward rail. Get it to where it'll go all the way across, rest on both frame rails. Then we can kind of move it rearward and get it rotated up into position. Now once we've got it positioned here where we want it, we want to rotate it to where it's standing upright. Crescent wrench can be helpful for that. You see there, once it's in position, it should move pretty freely for us so we can get all of our stuff attached. Now we're going to grab our 1/2-inch bolts, and we will need to get the front rail attached to our center section. Now we already had one in there for a little bit of security that you saw. We'll do that all the way across for all 4 hole locations. All right, now we're ready to attach our center section to our rear cross member. Here we're going to be using the 1/2 inch by 2-inch bolts. Place on a lock washer, a flat washer, then we're going to place them through the head and thread them into the holes that we talked about, being sure that we kind of cleaned out previously. Now we're going to grab our side plate. It should slide up between our 2 rails, and then it's going to line up with some existing weld nuts right here in our frame. So we need to use one of our 16mm bolts, put a large flat washer and lock washer on it. We'll get those threaded in. Now we can take another one of our 1/2-inch bolts. We want that to go through our side plate, thread into that rear cross member. Then in the front, we're going to bring a bolt through, just like that. Place on a flat washer, our lock washer, and our nut. Now we can go over to the driver's side and do that exact same thing. Now it's time to go through and snug down all of the bolts that hold our center section to our rails. So we're going to have 8 of them. Now once we get these snugged down, we need to look in our instructions. We'll find our torque specifications there. We're going to get them torqued down appropriately. Now we're ready to square the hitch up. We want to check this gap right here between the hat channel. All right, it looks like that's going to be just about 7/8 of an inch. So we'll check the other side. All right, now with those 2 numbers matching, both here and on the other side, back to the torque wrench, look in your instructions, find your torque specs for these larger bolts and get them set. Now we'll head over and tighten down our passenger side as well. Now that we've got our larger bolts torqued down, let's move on to our 1/2-inch bolts here on the side plates, and we'll get those torqued down to our rails. We'll do that on our driver's side as well. Now we need to get our safety chain connection points drilled out here. What we like to do is just kind of make a pilot hole from the bottom up through the top. That way we can drill down through. So I'm just going to take a small drill bit here, We want to get as close to the center as we can. When we bring the larger bit through, it will kind of center it up, but we get it as close as possible there. And we're going to do that for all 4 of our locations. Now from the top, we want to use our 1/2-inch drill bit and drill our hole out in all 4 locations. Then we can drop through our U-bolts on both sides. Now we'll head underneath and get the springs and nuts put on them. Now our springs, we just want to slide these up over the U-bolts. You see we've got our locking nuts. We're going to just get those threaded on. Then we can tighten these down, and we just want them to be about flush with the end of the U-bolt. That way they'll be nice and secure, but still give us plenty of room when we need to pull them up and make connections. Now we'll go over to the driver's side U-bolt, do the same thing there. Now we're ready to bring in our handle. You can see the kind of the U shape here. We're going to pass it through there. And then once we get to the center section, there's going to be another cutout U shape that we'll want to turn our handle and pass it through. I'm just going to bring this on through. Then we can look at the end of the spring here that's wrapped around the pin. There's going to be a small area right there. It's got a square hole on it. We're going to place the 5/16" carriage bolt right through there, just like that. It's also gone through our handle. And we've got our locking nut here. We're going to thread that on the other side. Then using a 13mm here, we can just snug that down. It's a locking flange nut, so we don't have to worry about over tightening it. It's going to hold its place, and we don't want to deform that eyelet. Now if you've removed your spare tire or your rear wheels, you can go ahead and get those put back into position. We're ready to drop the ball on the top and start enjoying our truck. And that's going to complete our installation of the custom underbed installation kit for the B&W Companion 5th wheel trailer hitch. Part number BWGNRK 1016-5W on our 2016 Chevrolet Silverado 2500.